This week, the name on the marquee is Leon Rocky Edwards, putting a stop to the evil reign of Colby Covington by winning a 5 round unanimous decision, winning 4 out of the 5 rounds in what was, I think, considering the hype and all the nonsense that led up to it, a bit of a lackluster performance, probably on both sides. I'm sure we'll both have opinions about this. We'll start with Mark, and let me know what you thought about Leon's performance, and probably even more interesting, Colby's performance.
Yeah, I was just going to say pretty much exactly that, which is that as much as this is a Leon marquee, and I don't want to take anything away from him, I feel like it's more so a Colby, a Colby anti marquee. As I choke on popcorn, um, he looked bad. I mean, this was pretty disappointing as a whole because the Colby that showed up to fight Leon wasn't the Colby Covington that we're used to seeing in there. I don't know if he just had a really bad case of ring rust or maybe he's gotten old quick in these 2 years off. Obviously, he wouldn't be the first fighter we've seen that happen with. But man, that's not how Colby Covington fights. And you could tell the announcers were like, what the hell are we looking at? There was no pressure. There was no pace. I said this in our group text, me, you, and Mike, but not to oversimplify Colby, but the pace and the pressure is kind of all he has. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. He doesn't have the best technique. He doesn't have the most power. He's not some elite striker. He is a high level wrestler, but it works. The only reason any of it works is because of the pressure and the pace. That's what makes him great. And it breaks guys. And he left that at home. For him to come in and fight without that was basically just showing up for a paycheck and a loss because there was nothing he made Leon Edwards have to think about in that fight. A low pace Colby has no chance on earth of beating Leon Edwards. And that's exactly how we saw that play out. That to compliment Leon, I will say to his credit from jump, he did a fantastic job controlling the octagon, walking forward, feinting, stance switching, which I do think was giving Colby problems, trying to trap Colby, everything he could do to make Colby move backwards and make Colby a little tentative to go forward. So I'm sure he had a hand in it in Colby maybe being a little less aggressive, but a lot of it was just Colby not fighting the way we're used to seeing him fight. And Leon, to his credit again, his takedown D was solid. He had some good get ups. His grappling was on point until late in the fight. Was the first time really Colby ever got an advantage there. He did rip Colby's legs. He fought a really solid, poised, precise fight for a guy who had so much emotion going into it from things that Colby had said. So I do give him credit for that. And I think the reason we didn't see like more from Leon is because he was kind of like, all right, if this dude is just going to stand there and ring strike with me, then I don't really need to take many risks here because I'm obviously going to win this fight. And that's all we got for pretty much the whole fight. So I don't know. I mean, I give Leon his credit, but the story of that fight to me was Colby looking like a shell of himself.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the real issue for me was after those 3 rounds, when you knew Leon had it in the bag, and Colby wasn't really presenting with much. I just feel like Leon had an opportunity to push it even more. Maybe even look for the finish. You know what I mean? Like Colby
Fair.
really hadn't done much of anything. I was surprised to find out. I think I told you guys in the text. I was surprised to find out he attempted 10 takedowns. I don't
Yeah,
even
it didn't feel
remember
like that
taking
at all.
takedowns. No.
Yeah.
Um, so it was definitely disappointing, especially with all the shit that Colby was talking, and it's so difficult to get behind him, even as an anti fan. Like I just don't even want to watch him. He just seems like such a bluff, that kid,
Yeah.
and just he builds things up to like not even show up. And then I was watching this at a Wild Wings, and a lot of the people that were there at the time were like big Trump dudes, big Colby guys. You saw Trump on screen, and everybody's cheering and stuff like that. So everybody was on Colby's side for the most part in that Wild Wings. By the end of this, people were done with Colby, and then by the end of the actual the moment the bell rang and Colby gets up, and puts his hands up in the air like he had
Yeah.
done something. I remember dudes at the bar, like at the actual bar area, being like, "You didn't fucking do anything!" Like just yelling at the 8 monitors that have this fucking fight up.
Yeah.
Um, and it was crazy, man. I mean, I think he did more damage to his brand in this fight than I think he has at all. Not only did he, across a line that I think a lot of people unanimously thought was a bit too much. Even the hardcores, that like that kind of crazy shit. I think even they were like, well, might have been a step too far. Um, and on top of that, he didn't even really back it up with a performance. It wasn't even
Yeah.
like the intensity from the shit talking backed up the actual fight itself. And I think from Leon's perspective, once we got to that point, it was definitely about Leon. Leon can't lose to that kid. Like his ego won't allow him to lose to somebody that he doesn't even respect. And so I think that was really where the tentativeness came from, as far as not wanting to push the pace, not or not wanting to push the envelope more than he needed to. I think he wanted to stay as safe as possible. I think he wanted to sun him a little bit in certain places. I think he tried to do that on the grappling when he tried to go for reversals a lot, tried to basically show Colby that his grappling was garbage. So I think there were a lot of moments like that. Joe Rogan had his own opinion about whether that was a good idea or not. I kind of like that stuff a little bit. I thought Colby,
Yeah, I
I
didn't
thought
mind
if
it.
I thought had Leon been more successful, I think there probably would have been less debate about it. But he did lose position a couple of times. So it wasn't like he was 100% successful in trying to do those things, but there were a lot of moments where he reversed Colby Covington and had him on his back. So I thought it was I thought it was a good performance from Leon considering the circumstances, and I can totally see how Colby got in his head. I mean, I mean, that's a reality. That's something that really happens. And I know his camp and his mom and stuff like that have worked to try to make sure that it didn't really affect him. But, we've seen Leon Edwards be more active in other fights, more so than he did in this one. So I'm sure it was all a mess by the time it was all said and done. I think I like Colby even less now than before, which is saying something because the bar wasn't very high to begin with. But the only thing I ever used to say about him was, even though I don't like him, you can't deny the way that he fights and the success that he has in his game. Nah,
Yep.
I don't even have that. So I don't know. I guess he's got to figure it out, man. But Leon is the champion, and we get to see him defend his belt, hopefully against Bilal next. You
Yeah,
know?
you nailed it with the hurting of the brand for Colby, because it's just like you said, the people who dislike Colby for a while have been wanting to hate on him even more than they do. But they're hit with this reality of like, well, fuck, he did come in there and scrap. Like he did come in there and battle Usman. He did come in there and beat Jorge bell to bell. And it's like it prevents you from fully, trashing the dude. Now, a lot changes. For him to talk the way he did and come in and fight like that, I think a lot of people, and I can see it even in like casual group text that I'm in, of people being like, wow, Colby fucking sucks. Like, why do you guys like care about when this dude fights? Like, that was awful, from like, people that don't always watch him. And like,
Yeah,
that's what's
yeah.
going to happen. People are just going to hop off, even respecting the game of Colby. So he lost some buzz here for sure. And he's going to have to get it back. And as I said, I don't know if he can. I don't know if the prior Colby is still there, because for 2 years to pass and then for him to look like that, it's a long amount of time. And it may very well be like, that prime passed him by. Jorge,
100%.
Jorge sucker punched it out of him
So I didn't want to say that, but I do wonder if Jorge's little ass beating kind of messed him up a little bit.
mentally. Yeah, I was wondering the
It's
same thing.
very possible, you know.
Very
Um,
possible.
Colby, for as good as a fighter as Colby is, he just doesn't. He's never, since the boomerang days of Verdum, given me that vibe that he's about that life, and he likes to play gangster on these press conferences and all these little public venues, and then as soon as the camera and the mic are just a little further away, he's like looking at these guys that he's basically talked the most amount of shit that they probably heard since like high school, and he's like, hey, just kidding. And he thinks it's gonna be cool. It's like
They had that
really
going
think.
around this time, but it was clearly edited.
I
People
mean, think
took. I don't
about
know
it
if you.
though. There's no country in the world, there's no place in the world where you look somebody dead in somebody's face, tell them that you're going to take them to the seventh circle of hell and that we're going to meet your dead father down there when his father's actually dead, and not take a baseball bat to the face. You know what I mean?
Bro, exactly that is what I said to someone. Like, that's the kind of shit that is line crossing for me that I wish was not in MMA. And the group text I was
Yeah.
in, everyone was like, "Oh, dude, they're about to try to kill each other. Why do you care what they say?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, that is a different level. Like, if you told me say on Thursday of fight week, Shavkat's crew jumped Stephen Thompson in the fighter hotel, I'd be like, that's so fucked up. That's so unprofessional. Blah 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 blah. If you told me after Colby made those comments that Leon Edwards' crew jumped Colby in the fighter hotel, I'd be like, good, he fucking deserved it. Like, that's the kind of shit that you ask for when you say stuff like that. And I even use what you just said. You ask for someone to run up on you with a baseball bat to the back of the head. Like, you can't say that kind of shit. And if people keep crossing these lines, and Duplessis just did the same thing to Sean Strickland. He said he was going to, I mean, not the same thing, but similar vibes, because Sean has openly talked about the
I
abuse he
mean,
experienced from his father when he was a kid. And Drake has said he was going to beat him so bad that Sean was going to have flashbacks to laying in bed and his father barging into the room to beat him. And like, someone is going to say shit like this to the wrong dude. And Sean Strickland is like close to being the
the
wrong dude.
wrong
And they're
dude.
going to get
Yeah.
shot. Like, that's the kind of shit I wish people would just chill the fuck out with, so nothing crazy pops off and we can just have fights. Like, you want to talk shit, talk your shit. But there's a line that you got to toe. You can say a lot in this game and people will let it go.
Yeah.
But there is a
Yeah.
line of finality that you just got to make sure you stay on the other side of. At least to me.
To me, it's just lazy. You know what I mean? If you're gonna put all this effort into shit talking, like, be creative with it. Don't
Yeah.
don't take all the low hanging fruit and then just be gross about it. It just,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not fun. It's not fun for everyone. You can hear as soon as Colby said it, like nobody in the crowd reacted. Everybody was probably
No,
looked at.
who's gonna fucking
Everybody
react?
probably looked at each other like, did he really say that just now? And
Yeah.
I think
No,
it took everybody a moment to process what had just happened in that moment. Everybody.
Yep.
Um. All right. So where do we go from here with Leon Edwards?
It's got to be Bilal, right? Like,
Right.
it's only fair. It's unsettled between them. He's the rightful contender. He's got this crazy win streak. He's been waiting. He even weighed in as the backup here. Like, it's got to be him. I know Leon's already throwing some other names out there, but I hope we don't do any bullshit. And this was Leon. Like, at one point, Leon was Bilal. So you would think if anyone understood Bilal's situation, it would be Leon.
That's
So I don't
actually
know.
his argument for why it shouldn't be Bilal. He's like, I had that win streak too, and they told me to go fuck myself. So why should Bilal get the next shot?
Yeah, it's got. I
Yeah.
mean, what else are we gonna do? Like,
It can't be
in,
Shavkat, and the only other thing you can do is make Shavkat fight Bilal, which also
which
seems
is stupid. Yeah.
ridiculously crazy. Like,
Yeah, or Leon and Islam have obviously been talking about each other, but like, Islam's got numerous guys waiting in the wings, so that's stupid too.
well,
So yeah,
Islam's
I
also
hope.
talking about October for that fight. So
Yeah,
who the fuck has time for that?
and Leon's talking about Strickland as well, but like, I don't know. I'd much rather just see him fight Bilal.
I'll be honest. If there was a fight that Leon Edwards could probably win at 185, that's not a bad one.
No, not a bad one.
It's not a bad one. So I don't. I can see where
A
he's
lot
going with
smaller.
that. I can't hate on him with that. I mean, he is a lot smaller, but I wonder how good Leon Edwards would look filled up, not having to cut weight, able to really blast some shit. And his
Yeah,
striking very well might be better than Strickland's.
I think a lot of fighters see Sean Strickland as a champion right now, and they're like, "Yo, I could beat
I could
him."
beat
And
him.
I'm not sure how right they all are, but I guess we're gonna find out.
You're not wrong. What about Colby? Where does that chooch go?
um. Oh, I pulled up the internet and I took you away. Now I can't see you. Let's bring you back. There you go. I like Colby's suggestion of him and Wonder Boy. I think that's where we should go. after the performance we just saw from Colby. Like, people are saying, "Oh, okay, now put Shavkat in there against Colby." I don't get that. He looked very bad. We're gonna put him in another number one contender fight. I'd rather move him down the line a little bit, give him another guy who just lost, a fight that's maybe a little bit more winnable, and see if he can bounce back and look really good and have people being like, "There's Colby Covington. That's how he normally fights." I'd rather put ourselves in a situation like that. So to me, I would go Colby and Wonderboy. If Shavkat needs a fight, assuming Usman is not a welterweight anymore, I think maybe you could go Sean Brady. I know it's a little crazy, but
That
everyone
is a
else is
little crazy.
booked, and
Yeah.
Brady looks unreal. And I think he makes more sense at this point than Covington does for a Shavkat opponent. So those would be my two bookings.
I wouldn't hold my breath on the Wonder Boy Colby fight just because apparently Colby called him a pedophile at some point. I guess was
Uh,
talking about how he's how because
oh,
Wonder
how he's
Boy
like a coach of little kids and stuff.
and just does what Colby does and took something and ran completely fucking left with it.
Yeah.
So I think Wonder Boy's at a point now where he doesn't really need that, and I just can't see that dude having to deal with press conferences and stuff with this guy.
I don't know, man. He was talking all about his one more title run, and now he lost. If he could beat Colby, he's right back in the mix. I'm not sure there's a quicker avenue to being back in the mix.
Yeah, I guess if they made some assurances, maybe we'll see it. But I wouldn't hold your breath. I was going towards the loser of the Gilbert Burns and Jack Della fight. That one's going down in March.
Yeah,
I think that'd probably be the best course of action for Colby. I think at this point.
I do like that also.